welcome along to week 4 of A Serve of Leadership. My name is Ian Crawford. I'm a professional speaker, trainer and coach specialising in leadership and influence. And joining me is the one and only leadership coach and consultant, Ash Dashludi. Welcome back, Ash. How's your week been?
Crofts, man, I've had a great week, actually. An absolute great week. Made some interesting work, doing some good, good coaching sessions with some really interesting leaders at the moment, and staying out of my kids' way. I'm being less of a pain and trouble to them, which I think is better for everyone. And you? How's your week been?
Been a great week. Like I said last week, work is starting to crank up again, and people are coming out of the COVID coma, and we're starting to see people starting to really look at their leadership development, their team development, which is really quite good. But, mate, this is a really big moment for me. I got to choose the topic this week. It's a very big moment. I'm very excited.
Are you feeling nervous?
Well, now that you've said it, yeah, a little.
Wow. All I can say from my side is thanks for watching the videos and sending in your topic idea. I think that's fantastic.
I think you need a bit more radio announcer's voice when you do that.
Mate, so being this big moment, tell me, what did you choose for this week?
Well, I'm going to drop in a drum roll here in the sound effects. I thought it would be really great to identify some of the major challenges that leaders will face in the future. Now, I understand that we're in the middle of this whole Corona thing at the moment. So I've been careful in not just focusing on that. I'm looking further ahead than just this chunk of time at the moment. So yeah, that's it. The major challenge of leaders as we move into the future. What do you think?
Giddy up. Well, my brain is already, the little hamster wheel is rolling away furiously there. So, mate, kick us off. Tell me, what do you reckon some of these big challenges are that leaders are going to have to face?
I think my first one, and I've seen this issue developing over the last 12 years of doing what we do, is this leadership awareness, having people that truly understand what leadership is and, surprise, surprise, actually leading. I truly believe that this definition of leadership has really been diluted over the years, and we are seeing more people in leadership positions that are warming the seat. It's not that they aren't doing their intent is good and all that stuff, but from a leadership point of view, they're doing more management than leadership. So I think one of the biggest challenges around into the future is to go out and find people that can answer one question with hand on heart, answer one question, which is, do you want to lead? Rather than, hey, do you want to be a supervisor? Do you want to be CEO? I think there's two great things. Then I want to see leaders, once I've answered yes to that, I want to see leaders consciously go out and develop their skills on an ongoing basis around strategic thinking, innovation, creativity, developing teams rather than developing processes all the time, and also having the ability to apply knowledge, their pure knowledge, to decision making and communication and all that stuff moving forward. So
tell me then, right? So this leadership awareness that you're talking about, it sounds like to me that there is an aspect of leadership being valued. Because I think sometimes at the moment, I question with some organisations whether leadership itself is valued.
Well, yeah, I totally agree. But my response to that would be, I think organisations need to, before they can value it, I think they need to understand it. To really have an understanding about, okay, in our organisation, what is true leadership? What do we expect from our leaders?
For us, yeah.
And once they've done that, then they can, go out and get great people and find people and build cultures around leadership, which I think then really builds up that whole value system.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I like the idea around that. And I think certainly, again, I think we spoke about this, back around week 1 or something like that, where, we're seeing a time where one of the key ingredients around this powerful, or being an important leader, I think, or a great leader in my definition, is that ability to be community or others focused. in that side. And in the world that we live in, we see a lot of examples of leaders who aren't like that, who are very focused and, very short-term thinking and very self-centered in their side of things. So, the world that you're talking about, almost kind of fantasy world, I call it, is that world where you would genuinely have a high level of expectation and a high level of
ability.
Yeah. It is something that is valued greatly, which when you do so, you invest the time and the effort, and you give the leaders in particular the time to develop into their roles, because it doesn't just happen magically for them.
Yeah, and it's not about position. It's not about pay packets. It's not about an office.
Okay.
It's what you're saying is, and that's the only way we're going to get value is when they go out and actually really do some great leadership. So I totally agree with you.
So it's the contribution they make, right? It is. Yeah. And it's the contribution not only from a business output, but it's the contribution to people's lives. It's the contribution to community. All those things become critically important.
And I think that as we go further into the future and we get the millennials further up into the positions, and I think as we get those Gen Zs who are very community focused, and they're going to expect that from the leaders. And if they don't get it from their leaders, they're just going to walk. And so I think that there's going to be greater expectation as we move into to do exactly what you just said. So,
give me number 2 then. Mate, you're on a roll now. No, give me number 2. I love
number 2. Why am I carrying you again?
You have broad shoulders, right? That's why you go to the gym every day.
I can say that because I know that is so not true. So I think the next one one of the biggest challenges that leaders will face now, but will increase into the future and continue to do so, is diversity within the workplace.
Talk me through that.
Yes, I think we should be really clear that at the moment, when we say diversity, I wonder if you agree with me or not, is when we say diversity, people instantly go to gender or different cultures. At the moment, they know it's other stuff, but the main focus is around those 2 things. I think that the definition of diversity and what we have to respond to is going to expand as well. Things like the diverse groups such as male, female, young and old, and everything in between, cultural groups, et cetera, et cetera. But the thing that I think is going to be really challenging for leaders is when we start moving into these diverse groups of uncommitted, diverse and increasingly cynical workforces that include older workers that have re-entered the workforce because their superannuation has absolutely taken an absolute tanking during this COVID or whatever else is going to come. Worn out workers who are holding multiple jobs, angry employees that resent cuts in benefits, and employees who also just come from a cultural and language differences that are going to require leaders at all different levels to have that extra sensitivity and dedicated time to support those individual needs. And the ability for the leaders to manage that diversity as well as actually delivering stuff on the ground, delivering performance, is going to be a massive challenge. And it's really going to take a focused effort right now of the organisation to identify and develop and nurture those potential future leaders that can actually manage and deal with this real diversity of that we'll experience in the workplace.
If I can extend on from what you're saying there, because you make a really good point, is that we sort of spoke about this, I think, a little bit couple of weeks ago from recollection, when we spoke about this approach for leaders around this one-size-fits-one environment, right? In that there is increasing levels of flexibility, even within individuals, around the way that they're going to work, around their, understanding what is going to fit in well with their families. Not only just diversity within, say, your team and your cohort or your organisation, but it's also going to be, it's understanding that if we take it out of, I guess, the mirror from community, we know that more diverse communities end up being richer and end up being, I guess, far more productive in terms of what they create and contribute to the world. And so organisations are no different, right, in that piece. But that one size fits one is, again, maps back to the challenges with the leader, right? Is that they need to have a lot more tools in their tool belt. They need to have a deeper empathy and appreciation for how they can engage and lead people, and have that level of agility in their own approach to be able to deal and contend with all those different circumstances and situations they're coming up again. It's no longer a cookie cutter approach with everything. So the mental models that they've got to have in place have to be quite diverse in themselves, right, to be able to deal with those individuals. So I think it's going to be an interesting one, and it's only going to become more complex as time goes. But thankfully, I guess the opposite side is there'll be greater supporting tools that leaders will have around technology and things like that, which will assist them in being able to, manage that diversity in place. But that's a good one. I think it's certainly going to increase on so many different levels. And you're right, it's diversity. You're never just talking gender, because even within gender itself, people's identity is very different. And even, I like sometimes, they talk about a diversity of thought, right? So what you're actually trying to do is not bring different individuals in. You're actually trying to bring different ways of thinking and different ways of seeing things into your team and into the workplace, because that's where the new ideas come from. That's where the new ways of seeing things come from. That's where, the upside to it is so, I think, is so overwhelming in comparison to the challenge. But I think the challenge for leaders is huge in that piece. I would agree.
One of the really interesting things as well is, we've talked about diversity, inclusive practices for quite a while now. And I think the research is starting to catch up in regards to, we've always known, like you said, diversity in our community is a great thing.
Yeah.
Different sporting clubs and different social clubs and different restaurants and, et cetera.
It's harder, but better.
Yeah, but but we've never really had research. We've always had this gut feel that this diversity works well in the workplace. But we've got some real strong research now that's coming out just going, there's no ifs or buts about it. If we can do this diversity well, the workplace is better in all different facets. And I think, that diversity really leads back to my first point around leaders being leaders. To be able to deal with that diversity, they're going to have to really step out of the day-to-day operational type work and stand on the balcony and oversee things in regards to, saying, oh, hang on, there's a problem over there, let's move around here. But, a lot of leaders really get down to that operational stuff and miss, what we're talking about. All right, enough of me talking. It's your turn.
Mate, what are you talking about? You're on such a good roll at this stage. You're on such a good roll.
Man. I appreciate that. But I know you always have good ones to come up with, so lay it on me.
Well, look, I think certainly when you spoke about the diversity, look, I agree that one size fits one aligns perfectly with that for me in that piece. When you raise this topic around, what do we see some of the big challenges coming forward for leaders? It was enjoyable to allow my mind to go a little bit crazy with stuff. And what I say but that is one of the things that stood out for me was the challenge that leaders are going to face with technology moving forward. Right? So we're well and truly there now, but we're in an environment where computers are going to be well and truly able to outthink us, right? And the complexity and the uniqueness of the challenges that they can solve are increasing, not only daily, but probably moment by moment. And how do we as leaders and teams incorporate and embed technology, but without losing the humanity? So for argument's sake, one of the things that I, had sort of been mulling over for a while was this idea, well, could there potentially be a situation where not only are leaders leading people, but also leading machines as well? So potentially whether it's through sort of humanistic style robots and that sort of thing. And I know I'm really sort of pushing out onto the edges here. But I love it. We're in an interesting period of time where we're going to have to make a decision around how we partner and embed with technology and how we don't lose the humanistic side of things. And I think leaders are going to play a critical role in that piece, but it's going to add an air of complexity, right, in terms of how we deal with leading machines and potentially people at the same time.
Yeah, and the interaction between those two groups as well. Yeah, and we work, both of us work in the mining industry quite extensively. And I don't know about you, but since I started, man, technology is, it's made such a major impact. And I think, one of the things that I tend to knee-jerk reaction is when people talk about technology, I think about robots. Robots, and like we see in the mining industry. One of the sites that I just worked at here in WA, they have 2 trucks that are driven by human beings.
Right.
Or every other truck that picks up dirt and moves it back to the crushers are all automated and controlled from Perth. What's that? Human, 1,000 kilometres away, or maybe more. But also the really interesting thing that I don't think even the smartest people could possibly get their head around is the artificial intelligence stuff. As a leader, how do we lead something that might be significantly smarter than me?
Yeah. Or whether it decides whether we're useful or not after that.
Wow. Wow, you got it all that way, have you?
but it's an interesting piece, right? Because I mean, what it starts to do is it actually starts to rethink the ways, or I guess our definitions around community and work, right? And that's where I guess the extension for my conversation around leadership is going to be leadership at a societal level, not just, say, from an organisation perspective as well. That we're going to have some conversations around what is work, and I think even mapping back to your diversity comment is you're going to have a whole collection of organisations who have different cultures. So some will say, well, we want to be the most efficient. We're just going to have a stream of robots and computers and things like that, and a few people to fix them, and probably robots pretty soon.
Yeah.
But then other organisations will actually go, no, the people side of things is actually still really important to us, and there is a greater purpose to the work that we do. So they may look for more using technology and individuals in partnership rather than in replacement of. So even the diversity is going to extend to, I think, within organisations and how they approach technology.
It's going to be really interesting. Hopefully I'm around long enough to see what happens around that. I find technology incredibly interesting. I was reading in, I can't remember which magazine, about starting to use artificial intelligence in diagnosis of conditions in American hospitals. And this technology is diagnosing the conditions better than the humans is.
Absolutely.
Which is cool, which is fantastic. But that must be worrying for people who work in the medical industry, not because it's bad, it's simply a massive, significant change to what we see, what medical procedures and all that sort of stuff occurs. So
interesting, though, is an extension to what you're talking about there is when you look at a lot of that research, is often technology and people end up creating better results again, right? So even though from almost a frequency perspective, the computers are getting smarter and picking up a lot of things that humans can do, but then most of the research in that area actually talks about that if they combine the two together and they work together, they end up with slightly better results again, or better outcomes.
So you're saying the diversity works?
Well, certainly between computers and people in that instance. I'm not saying always, but yeah, sure.
It's a really interesting. I think I must admit, I'm going to throw it out there. This will be a challenge for us as well, is to do a whole section on the impact of artificial intelligence on leadership.
Sure.
I can start talking about that stuff straight away and keep talking for hours. So how about we put that on the list of the ones we do? That's going to be a challenge for us, that's for sure.
You're already starting to, man, I tell you, once you've broken the seal now with these ideas, you are just streaming with them. There won't be any more, Sarah's from Sydney anymore or anything like that. I can tell you that.
Perth, don't get Sarah wrong.
Perth, sorry, Sarah. Sorry,
Sarah.
Alrighty. Come on, what's next, mate?
You got anything else? I got nothing else. You got anything else?
Maybe the last one for me, when I think about challenges for leaders moving forward, is a concept that I sort of bummed around. I call it the bamboo business approach.
Okay.
And with this increasing level of diversity, technology, all that kind of stuff, the biggest challenge for leaders is to not get caught by the current shiny lights right? So to have that ability to have a very clear mission in place as a team or an organization or whatever it is, to be clear around your strategy and to have sort of the strength of direction of where you're going and what you're looking to achieve, but also a bit like bamboo where it's very strong and can resist a lot, but it also has the ability to flex at the right time. And so it's a bit of a contradiction, but you want to be clear in path and strategy and mission, but then also still have the flexibility to adjust as the data provides that, without being so flexible and so dynamic that you end up getting nothing achieved because you're just zigging and zagging all the time. And I think for leaders in particular, with the increase in ideas and data available and communication channels and so on, it's very easy to lose track of what it is that is actually important and what should I be paying attention to around making decisions and things like that. So sort of taking that sort of bamboo business approach of, well, let's be clear about and be driven behind our mission and our strategy, and then having the ability to flex, as data drives with that. But you've got to have really sound data points and communication channels through that, so that you're not just sort of drawn pillar to post. That's probably my last one, I reckon.
So you work with a lot of organisations across a whole expanse of different industries. Do you think that definition of mission and then holding on to that mission to guide decision making is being done well now, or is it not done well, or is it somewhere in between?
I think it depends on the organisation. So if I was to say, it's probably, because amazingly everything seems to fall into a bell curve, I think there's a bit of a bell curve in there. I think there is a small percentage of organisations who do it exceptionally well and really live the mission and the values that they drive. Right? And I think over time, if you look at the research, they're the ones who, over the longer period of time, so I'm talking 50 years plus, are the ones who end up being more successful. I think there's probably a big section in the middle of the bell curve who are maybe a bit more, they potentially started out or they try to, but just haven't quite found the groove with it. They can still be successful. They can still achieve quite impressive things, but they also seem to be a bit more fluid in that piece. Okay. And again, same with the bell curve, there's probably a collection right down the bottom who it's not of interest to them. And they flip and flop around. And in fact, even I think they struggle, and there's a lot of failures that happen sort of in that piece as well. So that's kind of what I see around it. I believe it does fall into a bit of a bell curve.
Okay, cool. Good information. Interesting. So anything else?
Mate, I feel I've overcommitted already.
All righty. So Ash and I get together each week to discuss a topic around leadership, and we invite you to come along and join us. If you've missed out on any previous sessions, then go to our YouTubes and subscribe. The links are on the screen right now. If you have a topic or a question that you would like to address, then our contact details are now on the screen. Please reach out. We would love to respond from and hear from you. Thanks, Ash. Well done, mate.
Mate, thank you. Thanks for the chat as always, and looking forward to next week and the exciting journey that you're going to take us on next week.
No, it's your turn again, mate. It's your topic turn. Thanks, Ash. And thank you for joining us, and we will see you next week.